girl inadvertently pressed the shutter button beside her parents' gravestones, only to accidentally witness a murder taking place. She calmly captured the killer's face through her lens and quietly slipped away while the murderer was disposing of the body. She intended to seek help from her uncle, who was waiting by the roadside, and report the incident. However, her uncle had vanished without a trace. The girl's heart sank as her instincts told her something was wrong, and she rushed back. Her uncle was revealing her whereabouts to the killer. She urgently warned her uncle to beware of the danger, but it was already too late. Upon hearing her voice, her uncle collapsed to the ground. He suddenly noticed the camera equipment in the girl's hands. Taking advantage of the killer's moment of distraction, the girl immediately turned and fled desperately for her life, running until she reached a small wooden cabin. The cabin owner was completely bewildered and immediately blocked the path of this terrified little girl. However, a bullet struck the man's ankle with precision, and the excruciating pain left his mind blank. It wasn't until he saw an masked killer slowly approaching that he snapped back to reality. He quickly locked the door and loaded the last 2 bullets into the chamber. The moment the killer forcefully broke down the door, he nimbly dodged to one side and shot at the killer without hesitation. However, due to the considerable distance, the bullet failed to cause a fatal wound, and the killer remained standing. Now both sides were wounded, and the atmosphere became tense as both men remained cautious, neither daring to act rashly. The man threatened the killer, claiming he had superior firepower and challenging the killer to come upstairs for a confrontation, also claiming he had already notified the police. Upon hearing this, the killer's expression clearly wavered, obviously beginning to hesitate whether he should retreat. But when the man picked up the phone receiver, he discovered there was no communication line here at all. At this point, the killer made a demand as long as they handed over the girl, they could coexist peacefully. However, when the man gazed into the girl's innocent eyes, he firmly swore to her that he would protect her safety. The man asked with concern why exactly the girl was being pursued. The girl recounted the nightmare she had experienced and handed him the film roll. The man carefully wrapped the film in a plastic bag and had the girl hide it in the toilet tank to ensure absolute safety. At this time, the killer downstairs was gradually losing patience and planned to charge upstairs to eliminate them. A patrol officer passing by heard the gunshots and, eager to prove himself, did not call for backup but went alone instead. Soon he found the small cabin, but the killer remained composed and calmly put on his mask. The moment the knocking began, the killer opened fire mercilessly. Then the sound of someone falling came from outside the door. The killer slowly pushed open the door to find the officer had been shot and fallen to the ground. Seeing the dire situation, the man upstairs quickly told the girl to escape through the back window while the killer was distracted. But the girl accidentally made noise while going downstairs, and the killer pursued her, firing continuously at the frightened girl until his ammunition was exhausted. Just then, the barely breathing officer nearby caught the killer's attention. The killer tied up the officer and used him to threaten the man upstairs. The man pretended not to care about the officer's life or death, but he clearly underestimated the killer's patience. Soon the officer's body was pushed out, and then the killer fell silent. The man speculated that the killer might have retreated out of concern for police reinforcements, but to be safe, he had the girl hide in the bathroom while he cautiously descended the stairs himself. Looking at the empty scene, the killer was nowhere to be seen. However, the man unexpectedly stepped on a boot. Being clever, he instantly realized he might have fallen into a trap and rushed out of the house, only to discover the killer had quietly climbed upstairs using a ladder.